Good morning, YouTubers, and indeed good morning to my comrades at Metal Knights of the Round Table. I'm just here to do a little bit of a demonstration of the use of Viking and Saxon era fighting knives, as well as maybe axe as well, because I just happened to bring it down with me. I am put out. Currently dressed in this medieval tunic. It's not really Viking patterned, it's very medieval, but I kind of like it. Bought it from a costume shop. It's not real velvet, it is artificial, so not like my two combat tunics, which are both linen, and which I will at some point wear. Right. Oh, I think it's starting to rain. Never mind, I think I can cope. My skin's waterproof, as Aloy says in the Horizon Zero Dawn. And I could always WD-40 the weaponry afterwards. Scramasax. Sexa. Single-edged, drop point. Although I prefer to call that one a banana point almost, although bananas didn't exist then, so that wouldn't have been a word. I will eventually get around to... Oh, there's a bit of rust on there. I must sort these out. Always important to keep your weapons clean, gentlemen and ladies. And those who identify as neither. What a world we live in. That's a point for another video. These were made by an East Anglian weaponsmith who's very well known, especially on the Viking reenactment scene, called Mr. Paul Binns, who was good friends with my mentor, Rurik Gunnar Magnusson, God rest his beautiful soul. They will be engraved eventually. I made the handles myself. Paul Binns just did the blanks for me. He has a Facebook page. His weaponry is very good quality. And arguably, I would say, you know, you get what you pay for. BINNS. Works out the Fens in East Anglia here. Very personable chap. I got on with him really well. But like many smiths and craftsmen, he can get rather over-absorbed in his work at times. But he is lovely, bless him. Anyways, the Scramasax here will eventually be engraved with the runes for Wasp. The Sexa, as you can see by the handle, it does look rather like a sting, doesn't it? Will be bee. I like bees, they make honey, and honey makes mead. These would have been, did I get that right? Yes, worn either around the back of your belt, or a lot of people will actually have them in a sheath and hang them there. That is possibly the easiest method. I don't have one of them yet. I've got spare leather. I must make a simple one. Apart from anything else, what I've noticed is obviously if you've got something hanging right over this bit here, you are adding a level of protection for your vital area. Yeah, like that. So yeah, whatever they would have been, these would be the kind of things that would have been probably acceptable in some areas in a feasting hall. Not under tense circumstances, obviously. Mouldy pears. and they were used, the Scramasax especially was used as a hunting knife. Maybe, you know, the boar or whatever got up past your spear, you could quickly, sorry, I'll do that one again. Very quickly draw it and hopefully finish the beast off before it finishes you. They were a feature of the time period where basically, I think, I forget where the quote comes from, but this is a quote, I didn't make it up myself. Where this is the Middle Ages, everybody carries a knife. It's rather comfortable just resting like this, actually. The county here in the UK to the south of me, Essex, East Saxon, just like Suffolk is Southfolk and Northfolk. East Saxon, its coat of arms is three what look to most people, indeed I believed it for a lot of period of time, were sabres with a notch in them, scimitars more like, but they are actually meant to be a representation of Saxon. They've just been stylised and late medievalised, etc, etc. Don't ask me why there's the number there are, I don't know. Google is your friend, but always check your sources. There is one example that is the size of a full sword. Yet again, Google is your friend. My brain does not store all the information precisely when I need it. I am not Data from Star Trek. Brain fart. But this one, about the length of a sword, I think it's about the length of my main axe here, actually. Felt good. Many think, I mean, it's inscribed with runes all the way along. Many think this was a ceremonial item rather than a battlefield weapon. That could be true. Maybe not. We don't honestly know. There's lots of theories. Yes, so they would have been worn during everyday life. So basically, I think in a way they would have been worn more often than swords, because I like in films these days you often see someone just draw their sword and throw the scabbard away, because scabbards are intrinsically awkward when hung from the belt, whereas with short fighting knives you've got the movement, you know, there's nothing tangling in my legs, you know. And the back scabbard, we all know from people like forget the YouTuber, Shadiversity, that they are mostly unworkable. We saw this in Braveheart, the Mel Gibson film, which was historically bullshit. I still can't believe that Sophie Marceau played a princess who was 12 at the time. That's all a bit dodgy, isn't it? Anyway, I divulge, as usual. Many people who often watch my videos are used to me just going off on massive weird tangents. It's what I do. Yeah, he actually had to draw that claymore in the back scabbard in 2 takes because he could not fully get it out. The back scabbard may be a practical way of carrying a weapon, but you're not going to be able to draw it or put it back in a hurry. It's why I prefer the axe in a lot of ways, because it can just be hung in the belt, fairly easily drawn. Or you can just carry it almost like, you know, a little walking stick. This is a bit too short for that, but if it's slightly longer, or, you know, just hangs off your hand. Because it's a tool, as well as a weapon, obviously. Mm. I haven't done this in a while and it feels really good and healthy. It's good to get some of the frustrations out, I think, in a way that some people may find disturbing, but is essentially harmless. These are all blunted reenactment weapons. Yeah, a bit of rain. I find, down there, the handle on this one is a little bit too blocky, I think. I may take the wrap off its paracord, by the way. So, not period. I find these very useful. You know, you could do the whole fighting knife thing where you have this one like so. This one perhaps is maybe better suited because it covers the entire forearm rather than the shorter one, which doesn't. Watch me drop this. Oh, I did it! This is roughly only just shorter than a Gladius Hispanuensis Roman shortsword, because these things would also be very useful in very crushed close quarter combat, and because of their location in a crush, they could just about be hoiked out, even more so if you have it here and used. In Bernard Cornwell's Alfred Chronicles, I forget the exact name of the books, but yeah, The Last Kingdom. It often describes, you know, close quarters combat. Uhtred will not draw his broadsword, sorry people. It's not a longsword, they came later. He will draw his shorter one. And yes, that's where the influence came from, because he called his shorter one Sting. No, he didn't. Oh, I forget what he called the short one. Yeah, brain's a bit fuzzy because I haven't had a lot of sleep. I've got a volunteer shift to do at 11 o'clock. Just standing around like a glorified, unqualified security guard. Never mind. All I've got to do is I have no interaction. If anybody tries shoplifting, I just report it and make sure it's caught on CCTV. I have no right, no power or no authority to actually intervene in anything. More or less I'm safeguarding. There. The balance on these is wonderful. I did have a piece of deer antler on there, but during use in actual combat, because I only glued it on, it came off. I've got it somewhere. What I may well do is actually put pins in there, or wooden dowel, and then drill into the piece of antler to secure it more firmly in future. That's something I will. I love the noise, mate. It's like my dad carving the turkey at Christmas. Any turkeys want carving? No volunteers. I don't know how long in time these go to. I mean, you could see a direct relation between something like these and the longer single-edged falchion of later periods that was basically almost more of a bludgeon and cleaver than it was a sword. You even get to the extent of there's a German two-handed thing. I think it translates as war knife or something. If anybody can look that up for me, go ahead. Yeah, but it's a huge, long machete, basically. War knife is, I forget. Yeah. So yes, these things have evolved. I mean, they're very similar to, say, a modern machete. You see many things like this being used in zombie films. You know, because machetes are tools. Hedging bills, things like that I use. Their evolution into actual combat weaponry is a fascinating process that I may go into further at some point. But as I don't really have any working demonstrable models at the moment, I feel as though I'd be letting you down. But yeah, I'm sure you guys have got imaginations. You can use them. Standard 7s, just like with almost every other weapon. These 7s is, I still think, although some people disagree, is a fundamental way to just train, keep your fitness levels up, put the muscle memory in, etc., etc. It's also, as I think I've stressed before, and many other historical reenactment YouTubers do, the way you swing a weapon in reenactment is totally different to how you would swing it in real life. You know, unless you're doing full contact, you would not swing a weapon like this, a heavy weapon like this, in a combat display and be liked, appreciated, or welcome in the group. Had experience of this a long time ago with a young man who basically thought he was Ragnar Lothbrok. Seriously, he really did. He kept getting told that he was going too full on. Several minor injuries occurred. Nothing too serious. And the leader of the group then, he did a damn fine job, did Jason. He gradually, with help, encouraged this young man to go join a full contact group. I don't know how that worked out. That was none of my business after that period. And I admired his leadership skills in sorting that out. Because I think this will be my final point today. I think that when you get a bunch of reenactors, some of whom may be like me, high functioning autistic ADHD, it's a label, okay? That when you get people who perhaps haven't had that much discipline in their lives and have a tendency to overreact, you need to be a strong leader and put down any arguments between group members, envy, signs that someone's not pulling their weight. You need to stamp that down before it sets in as a rot. This is my philosophy on leadership. Having done historical reenactment for as long as I have, I've heard so many tales where groups have basically fallen apart because a leader has not stepped up and said, "Oi, what do you think you're doing? I have to knock your heads together. I heard of one recent thing that happened within a group locally to East Anglia, where neighbours, where basically two actual brothers, as in they are actually related by blood, actually seriously injured each other in a duel that got out of hand because issues were not being addressed until it had boiled over to that extent, which is ridiculous. Oh, but there is such a thing as being overly tyrannical. Enlightened despotism would be the way I would run a reenactment group, and hopefully will do. Anyway, that is perhaps a subject for a future video. Right, I've been going for 20 minutes. I've enjoyed myself. I hope you've been educated, entertained, and maybe learnt something. Thank you very much for your time. Please like and subscribe.